This interesting strength in the argument CR question has two differing viewpoints and we are supposed to validate one of them. So the presence of two different viewpoints means it's a slightly longer argument, but this is an interesting sort of medium-high difficulty question. So let's jump into a discussion of how to approach this question. We're going to start by breaking down the argument and understanding the different components in the argument before we start thinking about the question and the answer options. So let's read this argument together. There are several scientific studies and research findings that are constantly discussed and publicized in news media. So it's not just about conducting a study, but about its popularity. Some of these are contrary to other research studies that are published. And this conflict of information, so two research studies on probably the same topic are not showing the same results. And this conflict in information makes people believe that either science is inaccurate, so that's one belief, or that they can choose which scientific result they want to believe in. So people end up concluding, when they see differing results in the news media, they start thinking, well, maybe science itself is the problem. Or they think, oh, I like this study, I don't like this study. This one tells me that wine is good for me, this one tells me wine is not good for me. I want to drink wine, so I'm going to choose to believe the first study and believe that it's good for me. Right, so people are either choosing or they just conclude that science as a whole is inaccurate. However, so the however is what clues you in that there is a second opinion here. So when you have two arguments, make sure you understand how they are related to each other and exactly which part of the first one the second one is countering, because that is going to be important in your ability to determine how to strengthen, how to weaken, whichever side the question is asking you to strengthen or weaken. However, neither of these beliefs is accurate. So the author is kind of contradicting both belief 1 and 2. Science is not inaccurate or subjective. Most of the time, scientific studies show inconsistent results. So now the author is talking about why there are differences and he is explaining the conflict with some other reason other than these two. They show inconsistent result either because of inaccuracies in the methodology adopted. So he's essentially saying science as a whole is not inaccurate, but a particular methodology could be inaccurate, or because of misrepresentation of actual results by the news media. So now the author has come up with two reasons which are different from the two reasons that people in general believe. So it's either misrepresentation by the media or a problem with a particular study, a particular methodology. Now the author gives another example to validate it. A recent study done on just 15 women, the just tells you that maybe 15 is not large enough a number, showed that eating chocolate was not necessarily harmful. So the result was not necessarily harmful during pregnancy, and the media reported that all pregnant women must consume chocolate as it was beneficial. So the author is demonstrating how the news media misrepresents the study result. The result is maybe it's not bad for you, whereas the news media say you have to have a chocolate. That's the only good thing for the fetus or something like that. Well, not the only good thing, but a very good thing for the fetus. Now, if you notice, he also sort of touches on the methodology point that he has raised when he says on just 15 women. He's not being very explicit about it, but this example is sort of validating the inaccuracy of the methodology and misrepresentation by the media. If you read the question stem, it says which of the following best further corroborates? Corroborate is to support. You need to read a question stem when you have multiple arguments extremely carefully and make sure you understand whose side you're supposed to support. Are you supposed to support the people's beliefs? Are you supposed to support the author? Here it says corroborate the author's argument. So we know we need to support the author's side. Now let's see if we can jot down what we can understand about the author's argument. What is the author's conclusion in the argument? That people are wrong. Right? And their beliefs are wrong. Both the beliefs are wrong. And what are the reasons as to why the author gives in the argument? He's basically saying that the media or the method used in a particular study, one of these two is the problem contributing to inaccuracy. So when you have a conflicting study, seemingly conflicting study, and this is your result, right? What you essentially have is one of these two as your causes, right? So it's a causal argument where he's saying the media is the cause, or the methodology is the cause leading to conflict of information or seemingly conflicting information. It's not that science itself is bad, nor is it that you can choose what you want to believe in. So he's ruling out the causes that the people have attributed and is giving alternative causes for this conflicting study results that we see. Now, if you want to support the author, you have to stick to his reasons. Your answer option has to again say it's the media or the method that is the problem that is contributing to the conflict. If you pick a third reason, not mentioned by the people, not mentioned by the author, you're not necessarily supporting the author. To support the author is to not also come up with whatever causes you can. To support the author is to further validate the same causes that the author has come up with. So these are the ones that we want to focus on. Media, method, are we validating these two causes? Let's look at each of our answer options individually. A study result that shows that the effect of automobile pollution on global warming is marginal. Now, we have not talked about media attention at all in this particular statement. Have we said that the method that has been used by the author is wrong? We have said that this was a study, that this was the result, but we have not talked about the methodology either. If we have not talked about media attention, nor have we talked about the methodology and its problems, this is not the correct answer. We have to validate at least one of these two. Let's look at the next option. A flawed study. I'm loving this answer option already because it explicitly says it's a flawed study, which means it's saying that the method is wrong. Yes, I love that. Gaining widespread attention. So attention is again gaining popularity, gaining attention. Does it explicitly say media attention? Not necessarily. We'll continue reading. Because it seemingly showed that red wine reduces the risk of cancer on a very small control group. The words very small control group also further validate that the methodology was wrong. So it says attention in the passage. Is it necessarily attention by the media, news media specifically? Is it attention in social media? Is it attention through in the scientific community? That is not explicitly clear, but we do have the statement saying that the method was a problem. So when it addresses the methodology, it's still a valid answer option. All I wanted to address is one of the two reasons, not necessarily both of them at the same time. We're going to hold on to B. We're going to see if there are other answer options that address either the methodology or the media. A new study that further validates an earlier finding that the consumption of some types of berries lower the risk of heart failure. Now, there is no mention of the methods, whether there was accuracy or inaccuracy in the method, nor is there any mention of media. So, for the same reasons as A, it doesn't talk about the two things that we want the option to talk about. C is also ruled out. Let's look at the next one. The news media highlighting. I like that it talks about the media. So, that's good so far. Highlighting the fact that a study had clearly proven. Now, the clearly proven seems to imply that there wasn't necessarily a problem with the method. But let's see if it talks about the method. Clearly proven that effects of certain drugs on rats need not be the same as on humans. So, the methodology, whether it's correct or incorrect, has not been addressed here. It's talking about the news media, which is what we wanted to say. But is it saying that the news media is misrepresenting the results? The news media highlighting the results is not enough for us. Because if it's highlighting, it's probably saying the same thing as the result. It's not doing what it did in the chocolate example, where it went from not necessarily harmful to beneficial for pregnant women. Alright? So there's no mention of misrepresentation. While it does talk about the news media, it's not explicit enough. So I'm not sure D is the answer. Bravo, B as in Bravo was definitely a better option than D. So we'll eliminate. Let's check E. People not knowing what to believe. Now right there I have a problem with E. People not knowing what to believe is a callback to the first part of the argument, not the author's side of the argument. And even there, when talking about the first part of the argument, what were the two beliefs that people had? One, they said that science as a whole is problematic, or they said, let me choose what I want to believe, right? In neither case did people not know what to believe. The argument said, when two results are very different, I am choosing to believe either one or two, whichever I like better. The answer option is saying, when two results are different, I don't know what to believe, which is different from what the argument talks about. So they have a lot of reservations about option E already, but let's finish reading the option. People not knowing what to believe because one study shows that a certain disease is caused by genetic factors while other shows that it is also caused by lifestyle factors. Now, the also tells me that there need not necessarily be a conflict. It can be caused by genetic factors, and then as an added reason, you can still have lifestyle as a problem. We are not necessarily countering the results of the first study. So, first off, I don't even know whether there's conflict of information, and then when talking about the people's side and their beliefs, it's slightly different from what the author is talking about, and it doesn't mention the whole author's reasoning about either inaccuracy in the method or misrepresentation by the media. So, option E is also ruled out. So, in our final analysis, the only option that works is option B, which doesn't necessarily say that the news media misrepresented anything, but it does tell us that the study and the methodology need not necessarily be accurate. One of the two reasons given by the author and validating it is more than enough. If you had an option that validated both, perfect, but you don't have to have that answer option all the time. To strengthen the argument is not to make it foolproof, so you don't have to talk about everything the author has talked about. You only need to make it more believable than it is right now. And by giving this example, we are adding more credibility. We're giving one more example along the same lines as the chocolate example. So choice B is the correct answer.